40 feet. That's how far you are from the ground right now. The shingles beneath your boots are baking at 160 degrees. That's hotter than a sauna, hotter than anything your body was designed to stand on. The pitch of this roof is steep enough that one wrong step sends you sliding, and there's nothing between you and the concrete driveway below except the decision you made this morning when the alarm went off at 4:45 a.m. and you got up anyway. Every single day, about 10,000 roofers across America fall from a roof. Not trip, not stumble, fall. And most of them, before they fell, thought the exact same thing you're thinking right now. I've done this 1,000 times. I know what I'm doing. Today is fine. This is the life of a roofer, and almost nobody talks about it. It starts with a want ad, or a cousin, or a buddy who says, "Come work with me for a week, easy money." You show up in jeans and old sneakers because nobody told you what this actually was. The foreman looks at your shoes, looks at your hands, soft, unmarked, and says nothing. He just hands you a bundle of shingles, 80 pounds. You carry it up a ladder, then another bundle, then another. By 9 a.m., your legs are shaking. By noon, your lower back is sending you messages you've never received before. By 3 p.m., you understand, completely and without any ambiguity, that this is not easy money. But something strange happens. You also understand, without anyone saying it, that the guys around you have been doing this for years. And they're still here, which means it's survivable, which means maybe you can do it too. Let's talk about what you're actually wearing. Roofing boots, leather, steel shank, with a soft rubber sole that grips the granules on the shingles without slipping. They cost $180, and they're the most important investment of your life. Your harness, a full-body fall arrest system, clips to a rope that anchors to the ridge. On paper, it stops you from dying. In practice, most roofers don't wear it. Not because they're reckless, because it slows you down, gets caught on everything, and on a steep pitch in 95-degree heat, it's one more thing working against you. The guys who've been doing this 20 years don't wear harnesses. You watch them and you make a choice. That choice will follow you every single day. And here's the thing nobody mentions. OSHA requires fall protection at 6 feet. 6 feet. You're working at 40. July. Phoenix, Arizona. The forecast says 108 degrees, but that's the air temperature, in the shade, at ground level. The surface temperature of a dark asphalt shingle roof on a cloudless July day in the Southwest hits 180 degrees. 180. That's hot enough to fry an egg, and you are kneeling on it. Your knee pads are the only thing between your skin and a first-degree burn, and even through them you can feel the heat pushing into your bones like a slow fire. You sweat so much in the first hour that your shirt is completely soaked, not damp, soaked through. And then something happens that's actually dangerous. You stop sweating. That's heat exhaustion, and in a minute, I'll tell you what happens when you ignore it. Because most roofers do. But first, the work itself. Because here's what they don't show you in any movie, any documentary, any news segment about construction. Roofing is a craft, a real one. It requires reading a structure, understanding how water moves, where it pools, where it accelerates, where it sneaks in through the most impossible gaps. A master roofer looks at a roof the way a doctor looks at an X-ray, seeing everything that's hidden underneath. You learn the layers, the decking, the felt paper or synthetic underlayment, the ice and water shield at the eaves and valleys, the flashing around every chimney, pipe, and wall, and then finally, the shingles themselves. Each one overlapping the last by 5¼ inches, nailed at precisely the right height, not 1 centimeter higher or lower, or they'll blow off in the first serious storm. It takes years to make this look easy. And the guys who've spent those years, they're artists. They just happen to work in asphalt. Your primary weapon is a pneumatic nail gun. Runs on compressed air, fires a 1.75-inch coil nail roughly 600 feet per second. At that speed, it passes through a shingle, through the decking, and if you're not careful, through your hand, which happens more than the industry likes to admit. But the real danger isn't the nail gun misfiring. It's the nail gun working perfectly when you're not paying attention. You're kneeling on a steep slope, one hand steadying yourself, the other holding the gun, and the compressor is rattling loud enough that you can't hear anything else. For 8 hours, your thumb is 3 inches from a device that fires faster than you can react. You learn to respect it, or you learn with your hand. So, you stop sweating. What happens next is this. Your core body temperature climbs past 103 degrees. Your vision starts to tunnel at the edges. Your thoughts get slow and sticky, like everything is moving through something thick. You don't feel hot anymore. That's the lie. Heat stroke feels like relief right before it kills you. 3 to 5 roofers die from heat-related illness every summer in America. Not because they weren't warned, because on a production crew, stopping costs money. Your crew gets paid by the square. 1 square equals 100 square feet of roof. You stop, you cost the crew. So you keep going, until someone notices your lips have gone gray, until someone catches you before you walk off the edge. This is the job, and nobody makes you do it, but someone has to. Roofing is statistically the most dangerous construction trade in the United States. More fatal injuries per 100,000 workers than ironwork, electrical, or concrete work. The #1 cause of death? Falls. Not equipment failure, not structural collapse. Falls. The human body does not survive a fall from 3 stories onto concrete. The physics are not negotiable. And yet, every morning, tens of thousands of people clip on their tool belt, climb a ladder, and put themselves in the exact position where that physics problem becomes a real question. Why? That's worth sitting with for a second, because the answer isn't what you think it is. The answer is partly money. A journeyman roofer in a high cost of living state can clear $75,000 a year, and a foreman with his own crew can hit 6 figures without a single college credit. But that's not the whole answer. There's something else on these rooftops that I'll come back to, because it's the thing that makes grown men tear up when they talk about retiring. But first, let's talk about the day everything goes wrong. It's 6 a.m. and your phone is ringing. A hailstorm came through a suburb 3 counties over last night. Quarter-size hail, enough to crack shingles on every roof in a half-mile radius. Your crew is already mobilizing. By 7:30 a.m., you're on a roof in a neighborhood that looks like someone dropped it from a plane. Cracked shingles, dented flashing, gutters hanging like broken arms. And the homeowner is standing below you, arms crossed, already suspicious, already worried about getting scammed. You've heard this story. Storm chasers, bad contractors, guys who take the deposit and disappear. That reputation belongs to someone else, but you carry it. You will spend part of every customer conversation proving you're not them. That's the invisible labor nobody puts on the invoice. Every roofer has a ladder story, every single one. The ladder shifts. The footing wasn't set right. Someone moved it. The ground was softer than it looked. You're 8 feet up, not even high, and you come off it sideways, and the world rotates in a direction it has no business rotating. If you're lucky, you hit the ground and get up. If you're not, you break a wrist catching yourself, and you work with a broken wrist for 2 weeks because you can't afford to stop. The ladder is the most dangerous 30 seconds of the day. Not the ridge, not the steep pitch, the ladder. Everyone knows it. Everyone has gotten casual about it. That's exactly when it happens. By 35, your knees have an opinion. By 40, your lower back has joined the conversation, loudly, at 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep. Roofing accumulates in your joints, in the compression of your lumbar spine, in the cartilage of your knees that has been kneeling on hard surfaces since you were 22. The guys who stay in this trade long-term develop a particular gait. Slightly forward-leaning, deliberate, like they're always ready to catch something. It's not a limp. It's posture built from years of carrying weight on unstable surfaces. Their hands are remarkable, permanently calloused in specific places that map exactly to how they hold their hammer, their gun, their trowel. The body keeps a record. Roofing writes in it every single day. But here's the thing, and I'm going to close this loop at the very end because it's worth saving. There is a moment, every roofer knows it, that happens right after you nail the last ridge cap. You stand up. You're at the very peak of the roof, and for 1 second, you stop. You can see 3 blocks in every direction. The neighborhood is below you. The sky is enormous. And you are standing on something that didn't exist yesterday. Something that will shelter a family through 30 winters. something they'll live their whole lives under, not once thinking about who put it there. That moment, I'll come back to it, because it's why some guys never quit. A roofing crew is 4 to 6 people operating like a single organism. Someone tears off the old material. That's the worst job, the dirtiest, the one that covers you in black granules and old roofing tar that smells like burning tires. Someone runs the material up, carrying bundles of shingles up the ladder at 80 pounds a bundle, all day. Someone lays the underlayment and flashing, the technical work, the waterproofing, the stuff that actually matters. Someone nails the field shingles, and the foreman does everything, covers every gap, catches every mistake before it becomes a leak 3 years from now. The crew talks constantly, jokes, instructions, warnings, insults delivered with complete affection. When a crew is working well, it has a rhythm, a sound. Nail guns and compressors and boots on shingles, percussion from the rooftop. You could close your eyes and tell what was being built. At the end of the job, the homeowner comes out. Sometimes they're delighted. They had a leak for 2 years and now it's gone, and they say thank you like they actually mean it. Sometimes they're impossible. They're not sure about the color, or they found one nail in the yard, or they want you to come back and just check something because their brother-in-law, who has never roofed, said it didn't look right. You've learned to handle both with the same face, calm, professional. Not because you don't care, because you do, and you know the roof is correct. And experience has a particular kind of confidence that doesn't need to argue. You give them your card. You drive away. You have 4 more estimates tomorrow. One day, a kid shows up on your crew. 19 years old, big, afraid of the height but not saying so. You can tell by how he keeps one hand on the ladder longer than necessary. You remember being him. You don't say anything about it. You just hand him a bundle of shingles and point to the ladder. By the end of the day, his hands are cut, his back is destroyed, his shoes are ruined. He shows up the next morning. You notice. You start teaching him, not with speeches, but with small corrections. Move your foot here. Set the nail there. Watch that edge. Over 6 months, he transforms. His body changes. His movement changes. The fear in his hands disappears. You've built something in him the way he'll build roofs, layer by layer, without making a big deal of it. Every roofer remembers the first time. The first real close call. Maybe it's a patch of wet moss hidden under leaves on a shaded pitch. Maybe it's a soft spot in the decking that gives way under your foot without warning. For 1 full second, just one, you are going. Your hands find something, a nail head, a vent pipe, the edge of a skylight frame. Whatever it is, it holds. And you are on the roof again, heart going at a rate that is not compatible with calm thought, staring at your hands like they belong to someone else. You sit there for 30 seconds. Then you go back to work. Because what else do? You talk about it that night, at the truck, in the parking lot of a Taco Bell. Everyone has a story. That's how you know you're part of something. December. The work doesn't stop because of cold. It stops because of ice. Because you cannot work on an iced roof and survive. And because frozen shingles crack when you nail them. But until the ice, you work. In 28 degrees, with wind coming off a flat Minnesota lake at 20 miles an hour, making it feel like nothing on earth. Your fingers stop feeling things around hour 2. You nail by feel and muscle memory. Hot coffee from a thermos goes cold in 7 minutes. You eat lunch in the truck with the heat running, shoulder to shoulder with 3 other guys who smell like tar and cold air. And nobody talks much, because everybody is just trying to feel their hands again. It is not glamorous. It is not comfortable. And every single person in that truck is there by choice. Let's be honest about the math. Entry level, you're making $18 to $22 an hour. You work maybe 200 days a year. The rest is weather, slow season, waiting. So your first couple years, you're taking home something in the $30,000 range, which in most American cities is tight, very tight. You drive an old truck. Your health insurance has a deductible that might as well be a ransom. If you get hurt, really hurt, you find out exactly how thin the safety net is. But here's the other side of the math. A roofer who owns his own company, has 3 crews running, and knows how to bid a job correctly can make more than most people who went to college for 4 years and came out with a debt that follows them like a dog. The trade punishes you early and rewards you later. Most people quit before the reward. The ones who stay tend to stay forever. Who roofs America? Look at the crews. Every crew is different, but most of them look like America actually looks. Latino men who learned this trade from fathers and uncles and brought it north with skills that embarrass guys who've been doing it half as long. Black men in their 40s who were the best foremen on any job site, period. White kids from rural counties who needed work and found a trade that respects effort over resume. Veterans who needed structure and physical work after coming home to a world that felt too soft, too slow. Immigrants who speak 3 languages and none of them fluently, but can nail a ridge cap in 95-degree heat with one hand while holding their phone in the other because someone is calling from home. This is the crew. This is who puts a roof over your head, literally. Here's something that bothers the good ones. The roofing industry has a con artist reputation. Not fully undeserved, because storm chasers and bad actors absolutely exist. They absolutely take deposits and disappear, and they make every honest contractor's job harder. But the honest contractors far outnumber them. The guys who come back 2 years later to check a flashing job they were worried about. The guys who give a senior citizen a discount because they can see the house and the neighborhood and they know what's right. The guys who do the work correctly, even when the homeowner will never know the difference. Even when cutting the corner would have saved an hour. Those guys exist in huge numbers. They just don't make the news. The ones who scam people make the news. You've been cleaning up that reputation your whole career. 7 p.m., you're home. Your boots come off at the door and you leave them there because the tar never fully comes off, and your wife stopped asking you to clean them 3 years ago. You shower, and the water that runs down the drain is slightly gray from the granules embedded in your skin. You sit down and your body issues a full report. Right knee, sore, has been sore for 6 weeks. Nothing serious yet. Lower back, tighter than it should be. You need to stretch, but you won't. Both hands. The calluses are so thick that you can touch a hot pan without reacting anymore, which is useful at the job site and mildly alarming at dinner. You eat. You fall asleep watching something you won't remember. At 4:45, the alarm goes off, and you get up. This is worth saying plainly. A roof is not a commodity. It is not a product. It is the thing that stands between a family and everything that weather can do to a home. The rot, the mold, the structural damage that begins the moment water finds a way in. A failed roof does not announce itself politely. It announces itself at 2 a.m. In a rainstorm, with a drip hitting the bedroom floor, and a homeowner standing there in the dark, realizing how much they've taken for granted. When that roof was installed correctly, when the flashing was done right, when the valleys were waterproofed properly, when someone cared about the details no inspector would ever check, none of that ever happens. The family sleeps through the storm. They never think about it. That invisibility is the whole point. That invisibility is what a roofer builds. So, the brotherhood. I said I'd come back to it. Here's what it is. On a roofing crew, there is a kind of trust that most workplaces spend millions of dollars trying to manufacture and never quite achieve. When you're 40 feet up and the guy next to you reaches over and grabs your belt loop because your foot slipped, that is not team building. That is not a trust fall exercise in a conference room. That is a human being keeping you alive. Over years, over hundreds of days on different rooftops, you accumulate a small collection of people who have done that for you, and for whom you've done it back. You know their kids' names. You know when something's wrong without them saying it. When one of them retires or gets hurt bad enough to stop, something in the crew goes quiet that doesn't fully come back. You don't talk about this directly, but you all know it. Now, that moment I mentioned, at the peak of the roof, when the last ridge cap is nailed and you stand up. Here's what's actually happening in that moment and why it matters. You've spent every day of your working life doing something that most people drive past without looking up. You've worked in temperatures that would end most people's willingness in an hour. You've done it with a body that has paid the price and kept going anyway. And the thing you've built, the roof that will shelter this family through ice storms and August heat and everything in between, that will outlast the truck you drove here in. It will outlast your career. Some of it will outlast you. You stand at the peak and you look out over the neighborhood, and every other roof you can see from there is one you've thought about. You've looked at its pitch, its age, the way its valley flashing is starting to fail. You can't turn it off. The city looks different from up here. Always has, always will. One last thing. There's a number the industry doesn't advertise. The average roofer in America retires at 53. 53. Not because they want to, because the body decides. 20 or 30 years of that accumulated cost finally presents the final bill. And almost every one of them, in interviews, in surveys, in conversations that happen in parking lots after the last job, almost every one of them says the same thing. They'd do it again. Not because it was easy, because it was real. Because every single day, they could point at something they built with their hands that would stand in the rain. Or they could drive their kids past and say, I did that. So here's the question I'm leaving for the comments, because I genuinely don't know the answer, and I think you might. Is there something you do with your hands that gives you that? Whatever it is, tell me.